Take the first step towards online privacy. Get NordVPN.
I invested £25,000. Today, that investment is worth £5 million.
Say hello to our hero, the Hydrogen Energy Release Optimizer. Limitless power, zero emissions.
Okay.
Hey, Gordon. So good to be back with you. It's so good to be back with you. And the beginning blurb, bit.ly/CryptoRichOdyssey, Twitter, CryptoRichYT, join my official Telegram announcements channel. I'll have links for Gordon in the description below, and he'll have links for me in his description below and everything. And we're going to talk, well, we're both based in the UK, so we're going to talk stuff about the UK politics and stuff that's going on, including Seymour Hersh's article, the 15-minute cities. What's happening with you?
Sorry, the camera went out of focus.
Right. So, by the way, just want to start. Are you going to be I'm going to be at the NATO,
yes,
the NATO peace rally next week.
Yes, because
we. Yes, well?
Yes, I'm going to be there.
Fabulous.
It's we don't know where it is yet.
No, we'll be told on the day.
We'll be told on the day. Yeah, and they've had to do it that way because of the. As soon as they announce an event, then the event comes under attack by nameless, faceless entities that all of us. It's all cloak and dagger stuff.
Understandable, Gordon, when you think about the dangerous speakers like Craig Murray, George Galloway, XMP, Chris Williamson, XMP, MEPs Claire Daly and Mick Allen, also an MEP.
So dangerous, peace might break out.
That's right.
That's what they're calling for here. It's not a yes to war rally. It's a no to war rally. Anyway,
we don't want people knowing that there's an alternative to sending arms. I saw something today. It was I didn't just read the headline. How Biden's announced that they're going to send more money to Ukraine for pensions and social security for the Ukrainian citizens, not the US citizens.
No.
But for the Ukrainians,
not the citizens in Ohio.
No,
not them. Not the people in Flint. Not them.
Nope.
They're going to sort out the Ukrainians' pensions because they're more important than Americans now. What Americans get is force-fed propaganda. In that, I can't believe I'm going to say this, but it seems to be true. Party balloons are being shot down by the U.S. Air Force. That's where their $1 trillion a year is going, to shoot down party balloons. And then you've got CNN at the same time saying that they're UFOs.
Yeah.
That's how they were reporting. And this is how you get to a Pentagon defense budget, laughingly calling it a defense budget, of near $1 trillion a year and 1,000 military bases around the world. You don't get there without an immense amount of bullshit being pumped over the airwaves to propagandize people into thinking that this is money well spent. They're shooting down party balloons, apparently, according to an article in The Guardian I saw.
Yep. You read that shit rag? Because
it wasn't in The Guardian. It was somewhere else that I read.
Okay.
It was linking from. I don't go to The Guardian, no. But to be fair, the only reason I mention it is because the original article came from The Guardian, and even though it's The Guardian, I do like to give credit where due.
Sure. And I don't think you read The Guardian at all, because if you read The Guardian, you wouldn't really know about Seymour Hersh's article.
Let's talk about this, Rich, because it's a long article, wasn't it? And did you read it all?
I haven't read it. I've read about it. I've got some interviews of his that I'm going to listen to.
I read it. I read it all, and it takes a while to digest. And often you read it and you miss things, and then other people mention it. It's like, yeah, that's a really good point, and you sort of formulate an opinion. This is, first of all, the thing that strikes me is about this article. And if you haven't read it, everybody, please go and read it. Not that you'll find it from a Google search, and even if you type in Seymour Hersh Substack and the title, you still won't get the top article. Is Seymour? It's ridiculous the amount of censorship that it has to be forced upon people for this narrative to be upheld. Although it is unraveling quite quickly.
So just on that, I don't use Google search. So I didn't know that. I use Pre-Search, which actually pays you in crypto, by the way, for searching.
Well, most people do. So most people do.
Yeah.
So I sometimes, if I want to do a search to see how much it's been repressed, that's
Right.
where I go to see what the algorithm's doing. And it's plain. You can't. If you type in, I typed in Seymour Hersh Substack, how America blew up the Nord Stream pipeline, and the top result was from Chris Hedges. It wasn't from Seymour Hersh. Now, not to say that it was Chris Hedges in SharePost, his little thing, but Seymour Hersh's post is totally gone. When I looked, was gone from the algorithm. You couldn't find it. This is the level of censorship that's. So anyway, the first thing that really comes out of it is this was being planned 2 months before the invasion of Ukraine. That's the first thing. That's the first thing that strikes me. This was December last year, 2021. That, according to Seymour Hersh, the blowing up of the Nord Stream pipeline was being planned before the invasion. Now that feeds into my reporting, where I've reported how in the leading, because for 100 days they said Russia was going to invade Ukraine. They said they were going to do it. And there's no signs of it. There was the military build-up because there was a Ukrainian build-up on the other side, and there was this sort of standoff. But then the shelling really increased, didn't it, in the Donbass, according to, there's an article in Mood of Alabama. I didn't read it, but I saw it in today, and they're going into depth about it. And I know that the shelling's increased from like 40 or something a day to like over 1,000 in some instances. And it was almost like we're going to punch the Russian-speaking Ukrainians so hard that Putin's going to have to step in. It's almost like that they forced this to happen. And if the planning was going on in December previous, it's like, how much of this has been planned? Really? Because you look at Nuland's speech in January before the invasion. If Russia invades, she basically said they'll put the end to the Nord Stream pipeline. I'll clip it in here. And then after the Nuland speech, you've got the press conference with Biden. And Biden basically says, if Russia will put an end to Nord Stream. And the journalist asks her how. And she's like, trust me, it'll happen. This, and then after it's happened, they blew it up, as Seymour Hersh has described with, they were using, this Boltops 22, they were using the cover of a military exercise, joint military exercise between Norway and the United States. And they were using, this exercise was a pretext for repelling a Russian attack. So they were using the subterfuge of a Russian attack, and they were having to train to that, to actually blow up the pipeline of a NATO ally. This is a NATO country conspiring with another NATO country to blow up a NATO ally's critical infrastructure, sending the cost of their gas through the roof and uncertainty in their own population, millions of people struggling now. And then if you look into a wider Europe and the EU context, it's even worse. This is a criminal act. This is an act of, I believe, let's face it, global terrorism against the critical infrastructure of an ally.
Well, a country that the US is not at war with.
No.
An attack. So there's no declaration of war. Attack on their civilian infrastructure. So that's a violation of international law. It's also a violation of. There's got to be some NATO rules that stop one NATO country from attacking another NATO country. Then there's the violation of federal law because President Biden. One, there's no war declared against Germany by the Congress, nor is there any use of authorized force memorandum, nor did he go to the Joint Committee on Intelligence and let them know. So he deliberately did it privately, quietly, so that nobody in Congress would find out, which is going to be unconstitutional.
They took it out of the CIA's hands and into the militaries, so there was no congressional oversight of it. Yeah. That's what the allegation is here.
And then they did it through a diving school rather than do it through fully trained soldiers. So they did it with diving students, military diving students. By the way, I discussed this with, because we're recording this on Saturday, the 18th of February. I discussed this with Tom and Alexander Mercuris earlier on when I that video will go out after this one. So that was, and the thing that I wonder about is the rollout, the consequences of this. I was having a conversation on this WhatsApp group with many people, including many people who took the injections and believe in the climate change agenda and believe that Putin is the worst genocidal maniac ever, and the Azov battalion are no longer a force in Ukraine, that sort of stuff, and they got their blue and yellow flags. And I asked them, I said, what do you think is the consequence of this? And they said, oh, nothing will happen. Like, no one's really interested. I'm like, are you kidding? Are you kidding? A NATO ally gets attacked by another NATO ally. You think that's not going to piss people off? And remember at the time, Gordon...
I got to say, it's going to piss Germans off, and I've seen evidence of that.
Yeah, but at the time, there were demonstrations by German people about turn Nord Stream 2 back on, turn it on, turn it on. We want gas, we don't want to freeze. That happened, those demonstrations gone. And then Norway and the US, they benefit because the price of gas.
And Norway has got the pipeline ready as well, and Norway's a net exporter of it. So they're going to benefit from this.
Yep. Yes. But the other thing that it does, it sets a precedence that pipelines aren't secure.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's not just a pipeline isn't secure. It's being a NATO ally isn't secure, because as soon as the United States foreign policy interests go against your interests, you're bombed. Your infrastructure is bombed, and to hell with the gas prices. To damned with it. You're just I'm pissed off enough about how the United Kingdom is subservient to Washington. Okay, I'm pissed off enough about that. I can't imagine being German, having this happen and knowing about this. There's a politician from the left party in Germany called Savine Magdalene, I think her name is. I'm sorry if I got it wrong. And she made a brilliant speech. And in the speech, she was caught in the German parliament. She said, she was like, we all know Olaf Scholz, the German chancellor, won't go to the shops for a loaf of bread without having the say-so of Washington. And that is the feeling here, the subservience of not just Germany, but the EU to this NATO power, which, let's face it, I mean, I had a conversation, I did a tweet today. Ian Dale was spewing some crap on Twitter about Ukraine, and I was like, history didn't start in February 2022. It didn't start with the invasion of Ukraine here. Stop trying to whitewash history before that, because this has been predicted for over a decade, and everybody who said that this was going to happen has been smeared, has been slandered, has been pushed to the sides. In the case of John Mearsheimer, it was, the anti-Semitism smear. And he predicted this back in 2015. He said, the result of this is Ukraine is going to get wrecked. And here we are. Absolutely everything that he predicted all along has come true. And he was telling these people in Washington this all along. And the people in Washington who have got this wrong all along are still in power. They're not voted out. These are not people you can vote out. These are people behind the politicians. This is the real deep state here.
Yeah.
And if you don't see this, then you're willfully blind.
Now, because of YouTube censorship, if you want to hear the rest of this conversation, you're going to have to come over to my Odyssey channel, bit.ly/CryptoRichOdyssey. bit.ly/CryptoRichOdyssey. Thank you. Releasing 400,000 tons of methane gas, while telling the Irish farmers and the Dutch farmers,